Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to the Falcoholic Lives Falcons vs. Panthers Week 15 postgame show. And you guys had to watch that game, so we are having to talk about it for you. What a disastrous Week 15 for these Atlanta Falcons as they fall to the previously 1-12 Carolina Panthers, the 30th ranked scoring offense and 31st ranked scoring defense. The Falcons could muster just 7 points, one single scoring drive in the entire 4 quarters against the 31st ranked scoring defense. Yes, it was wet. Yes, it was rainy. The Panthers scored more points than the Falcons, so I don't want to hear that excuse when they're the 30th ranked scoring offense. And the Falcons defense did their damnedest again to try to keep this one in check and try to win this game, and it still was keeping the Panthers under 10 points was still not enough for the Falcons to win because of the offense once again. And there was some play calling concerns, there was some ball distribution concerns, and of course there was those patented Desmond Ridder turnovers that we've all come to expect. Even Bijan put the ball on the ground in this one, but not a lot of excuses for this week, and we all know where to point the finger at the end of the day, given what we've seen. But before we dive into the darkness, welcome into, of course, Alan Strk at Alan Strk. Alan, other than the game, how are we doing today?
I mean, I got my Christmas tree lit up. I'm getting that holiday cheer. I'm in like 3 fantasy quarterfinals right now, so not going too great, but the energy's there. The energy's there. But besides that, we got a lot to dive into. I know you're going to be excited for your draft takes in a few weeks. It might happen at the end of the show at this rate, but the brand will be coming for those that are ready to talk about draft. But in all seriousness, the things that have been brewing up over the past 2 months, I think all culminated today. The talks about Arthur Smith, the talks about Desmond Ridder, it's got to be a full blow up at this point. What happened was just completely unacceptable. Any sort of, and I want to put the square in the offense because the defense, I think, plays good fundamental football. They've had a couple of bad stretches this year, but besides that, they play fundamental football. This is on the offense.
Yeah. Any
sort of somewhat stable fundamental offense wins this game. The whole thing is just do not turn the ball over, make 4 plays. They got the Jonathan Smith leak, Cordell Patterson, nice little misdirection. Okay, Drake London plays, Kyle Pitts, a couple of gutsy 3rd down conversions. That should have been enough. But man, if you just want the epitome of the Falcon season, the Desmond Ridder interception, you could watch all 22 view, you could watch the close-up view, him trying to beat Pat Mahomes. It's just absurd, man. And it just things gotta change.
Yeah,
things gotta change.
No, I mean, I think this game really hammers it home, and if this isn't a late season collapse, Alan, I don't know. My guess is, if this isn't, we'll see what happens over the last 3 games. I can't imagine there's a lot of hope for wins in the last 3 weeks, given that you just lost to the 1-12, now 2-12 Carolina Panthers. But
here's my argument though. How it can't really be a collapse because the team's been borderline 500 under 500. I just think it's things that have been brewing the past few months. It's come to fruition. We've been seeing it. And what just makes this worse is that this is an historically bad schedule. I made a joke last night saying, I'm kind of intrigued by Falcons Colts because this is the first time in 2 months the Falcons are going to be playing a good team. So you want to talk about the Colts? I think they're a good team.
They're very solid. Yeah.
Look, their coaching is great and they make enough plays. Besides the Jaguars, Lions, and Texans, I don't think the Falcons played a good team this year. I wanted to believe in the Packers. I think that kind of crashed. Yeah. The Falcons played 3 good teams this year. And what's their record right now, Pat?
0-3, 1-3 maybe. Oh, they beat the Texans, who were decent.
Yeah. No,
yeah.
What's their record right now? Overall.
Oh yeah. 6-8. Yeah. Yeah.
They played 3 good teams. They've had the lightest schedule.
Yep, and they look bad. Every single game is ugly. It just is what it is. But let me go ahead and get to a quick word from our sponsor real quick. BetOnline.ag, guys. All the major sports are in action this week with the college football playoffs ready to kick off. BetOnline is your #1 destination for all your sports wagering info, including news for pro football, the NBA, upcoming fights, and NHL games this season. Again, I'm going to go back to it and say, please don't bet on these Falcons. Do not. Nobody is safe. Even Bijan is no longer safe to bet on because they gave him his lowest snap count of the season this week in a must-win game against a bad Panthers team. So you can't even trust Bijan Robinson as a bet at this point.
I'm gonna bet on Drake London in a dome.
Yeah,
against a team
maybe
a team that they're playing against is not that's better than them. I would chase Drake London playing from a 2-score deficit. That's what
maybe that's it. Maybe we could go for that one. Maybe that's one, but I urge you to utilize caution, extreme caution with this team. But no matter what you want to bet on, guys, you can do it at betonline.ag. So head to that website today to get into the action, see all the updated odds for the week. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, well, we got a bunch of donations coming in hot and heavy, so let's get to a couple of those before we dive in even further. We got Ray Moon with the $5 saying, over the week, Kevin made a wager that the Falcons would definitely turn the ball over, and he was right. Yeah, if I could bet on that as a prize pick, I would do that every week because that's easy money, but unfortunately you can't do that. But that would be pretty easy money. We also get to welcome in Adnan Ikic here. He is at Say Which Way. Adnan, welcome. I know you got words, but before we get to that, outside of the game, how you doing today?
Yeah, I'm fine. How are you guys on this lovely Sunday? Yeah, the weather is nice. It's cold, but not too cold in Atlanta.
Your Christmas spirit out now?
Yeah, I mean, it's another beautiful day. Thank God for giving us another day of life.
Yeah. That's we have that. We do have that to hang our hats on. We are alive, so there is some positivity to be taken. We could always lean on that, but yeah, this team is definitely stretching the limits of our positivity. But let me get to a couple more donations, and then we'll get some of Adnan's takes in here as well. We got Ray Moon with the controversial take here. He says Arthur Smith didn't lose this game; his players did. Well, I know Ray's been taking heat for that one. So you're gonna get some heat from me too, Ray. I mean. Arthur Smith lost this game too. Like, yes, the players aren't playing well, but when everyone is playing poorly on offense, who do you look at? Do you say, well, all these players just suck, our entire 53-man roster sucks? Or do you say, like, well, why is everyone so sloppy? Why are people making simple mistakes? Why aren't people running clean routes? Why is the quarterback not making easy reads? Like, it's the offensive coaching staff, and Arthur Smith is the king of the team. He's responsible for everything. So did he directly lose the game? Like, did he call, like a bad timeout or something like that? No, but he definitely lost the game. And I think, the play calling was suspect, among other things. But maybe this is a decent segue into some of those things. I know Alan and I talked about it a little bit off the top, but Adnan, I mean, what was the biggest issue in this one? I mean, there are a lot to choose from.
It felt collective. Okay, so let's just start with, to be completely fair, the entire right side of the offensive line was out. It was Norton, Hinton, and Ryan Newsflash, who started. So that's something where you're definitely at a disadvantage. 3 of your 5 starting offensive linemen are out, and that has to be mentioned. Like we have to be fair here. You were playing in the elements. You were playing it was just a monsoon over there in Carolina. It was even worse than that Thursday night game last year somehow, which was really bad. It looked even worse than that Jets game. However, no matter what excuse you put, there is no excuse. The Carolina Panthers came into this game at 1-12 and pretty much as a broken football team. You came into this game tied at the top of the division. At the top of the NFC South, knowing that you win this game, you're first in the division because of the division record. Like, you would have at least temporarily climbed above the Tampa Bay Buccaneers no matter what they did this week, because your division record would have been 4-1. Yeah, 4-1 at this point.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I just realized that because of division.
Yeah, because of the division.
And them prior too. Okay.
Yeah, the Bucs are 3-1 in division. The Bucs have a better conference record, but you would have set yourself up down the stretch. So you had literally every single thing to play for. And this season especially, making the playoffs this season is more important than than in a regular season, I would argue, because this team is in a playoff drought. Arthur Smith this is year 3. He's never made the playoffs. Like, this team had to show out down the stretch. And then they went out there and they just looked pathetic. Like, that game felt like the culmination of just a terrible season. And it was a roller coaster of a season. We've had some decent moments this year, but I don't think any of us can doubt that this season has been incredibly, incredibly frustrating, even from week 2 on, even from the very start. And this game just felt like the floor fell out from under you.
Yeah.
7 points on offense. You had, I want to say one really good offensive play. So that play call, the play to Jonnu Smith was great.
Mm-hmm.
The one where he, leaks out off that play action. It was a really good throw. It was a really good design. And other than that one play, you were blanked. Because that sets up the Cordero Patterson touchdown. And this entire game, it was just it just felt like a travesty. Yeah. I wish I could just pull out every single negative word in the English vocabulary to describe the offensive performance. And none of what I'm saying applies to the defense. The defense did their part. You gave up 3 field goals. You kept them out of the end zone. Okay, sure. The Panthers went downfield, but you can't really expect and rely on the defense to just bail you out time and time again, the way that this team has just done so all year long. Eventually, the defense is going to run out of gas, especially when Onyemata is out. Grady Jarrett is out. Contavious Street, say what you want about Contavious Street, but he looked really good since he's come here. That was another one of those hidden gems that Terry Fontenot just pulled out of the mine.
Yeah. And,
he's out. So the defense, I have no issues with the defense in this game. But, man, Arthur Smith is the offensive genius. He's the modern play caller. He's the guy that has full roster control, so don't tell me shit about how his quarterback is bad. His quarterback is Desmond Ridder because he decided that his quarterback was going to be Desmond Ridder. He decided that he was going to go into this season without a single training camp battle. And, I've taken some victory laps on this. I'm going to take another one right now.
Go for it.
I was telling you guys, I was warning you guys in camp that, hey, Desmond Ridder is not really looking that sharp in training camp. He's not really looking that good. I don't care that he's gone 7 for 8 today. If 7 of those passes are all screens and slants, you can't just dink and dunk your way downfield in the NFL. This isn't a game of Madden on rookie mode. And, they didn't care. Desmond Ridder is their guy. Okay. Preseason. No, we're benching Desmond Ridder. He's going to play one drive, a drive which finished with an interception, by the way. He didn't even score on that drive. And, we're going to treat him like we treated Matt Ryan in 2021, where he's just going to be out. And, he just apparently has that cachet in Arthur Smith's size. And then you go into this season and you reap what you sow in the NFL. And we are definitely harvesting a very shit harvest right now because you just lost to a 1-win Carolina Panthers team. And I don't care what the roster is looking like. You had all the motivation in this game. The Panthers had every single reason to just roll over. And had you punched them in the mouth, I genuinely feel like they would have rolled over. Because what are they playing for other than pride? This was I don't know. I'm trying to find the words, and it's my job to find the words, and it's all of our job to describe it and to analyze it and to, tell you guys what happened. But at the end of the day, you just have to throw your hands up and be like, you know what? This isn't it. This quarterback isn't it. I mean, shit, I could have told you guys. I was telling you guys. Not I could have told you guys. I did tell you guys in training camp that Desmond Ridder wasn't it. But, sure, let's look for ourselves. So he's not it. Arthur Smith, get him out. I'm done. I'm finished. I'm ready for him. I'm ready for the announcement to come tomorrow that the Atlanta Falcons have parted ways with Arthur Smith. They're making Ryan Nielsen the interim head coach. They're giving play calling duty to, I don't care. I don't even care who gets. Yeah, just give Matt Shaw play Call of Duty. I don't.
Even better.
Yeah, like bring Matt Ryan in, let him call some plays. It can't be much worse. They scored 7 points out there against a defense that's not really that good. I don't give a fuck about rain either. Like, you have this vaunted rushing attack, which got 52 yards total. This rushing attack where, Bijan Robinson, God love Bijan Robinson, but 11 yards on 7 carries and a fumble. That's not going to get it done. And then Desmond Ridder with one of the worst interceptions I've seen from him all year. And that's saying something because he has thrown some fucking turnovers. He has
it's the worst.
Yeah.
I truly believe it's the worst.
Yeah.
That was the most accurate pass Desmond Ridder had all game. It just happened to be right into the chest of a defender. And it's fitting that was his last pass of the day because the Falcons never saw the ball again. And the defense had given up 6 points total. So what are you expecting here? They gave up 9 points. They had given up 6 points at that point. And you are the offensive guru. You have been given every single thing you could want on this roster. 3 years, 3 straight seasons, losing seasons. I'm just chalking this up as a losing season. I do not think they're going to win out. I'm sorry for my lack of optimism, guys.
You don't think they're going to go 3-0 to close it out?
I don't think we're going to go 3-0. I asked it. I'm just going to say one more thing for now. And I asked it on Wednesday's show. What coach in the NFL today survives 3 straight losing seasons? You name him. This isn't a rhetorical question. What coach? And Bill Belichick's not going to do it. Bill Belichick's about to get fired after his 3rd losing season in 23 years in New England. Like, who? John Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin, maybe? Like, even Steelers fans are trying to drive Mike Tomlin out right now, which is like, that's another story. That's kind of crazy.
Right.
Great. What coach survives 3 straight losing seasons in today's NFL? I don't think that there's a single one, but you know what? There's a chance that Arthur Blank, that's another conversation entirely. If Arthur Blank holds on to Arthur Smith going into next year, we need to discuss about if this team can ever be successful with Arthur Blank as the owner.
Yeah, it's one thing, the way you get to those losing seasons matters, and we've talked about context a lot. Like, it's like, oh, well, if the Falcons, go 9-8 and they make the playoffs and look good and they're trending in the right direction and they look like they've made progress and all this stuff, maybe you say you make the case there, right? Like, okay, there's a chance that we're seeing something positive, we're building towards something, there's some hope here. But if you this is the opposite of that. Not only are you coasting towards 7-10, probably at best at this point, again for the 3rd straight season, it's getting worse every week. The offense is getting worse. And you're down 3 starting offensive linemen. You were down 4 last week against the Bucs, and you scored 25 points. So I don't want to blame the backup offensive linemen anymore. They showed they could do enough for this offense to be okay. The weather was bad, but it was bad for the Panthers too, and they outscored you.
I mean, that's what happens when you have a run play on 4th and 3. That's what happens on 3rd and 11 when you're dialing up the run.
4th and 3, it's
what are we doing here?
Kyle Allgeier's lead blocking on 3rd down. Mind-boggling.
Lead blocking on a top. There's no way.
Is Keith Smith dead? Did Keith Smith die?
I was spread. Who's 43?
Tucker Fisk.
He was getting reps.
Yeah.
And somehow Tyler Allgeier's lead blocking on a stretch play on 3rd and 4? What are we doing? Look, it was nice a couple of plays where Tyler Allgeier ran up the gut on 3rd and short where he was positioned as a fullback. That's fine. But if you're calling a specific run play, there's no misconception about just running a regular stretch play with Allgeier as the lead blocker. You're not fooling anyone. It's just there's no attention to detail with this coaching staff. That's the offensive coach stuff. And we got to keep reiterating. This is all on offense.
Yeah. Ryan Nielsen's working miracles. He's working miracles out there.
Dude, the Falcons have 29 sacks. They're going to get over 30 sacks for the first time in 4 years? And
with their 2 best defensive players out, Grady Jarrett and David Onyemata, their best pass rushers are out. And they're still getting sacks. They held the Panthers to under 10 points. Someone tweeted at me "Oh, are we going to talk about the defense blowing another lead?" Are you fucking serious? Are you a serious person, or are you trolling? Because if you're trolling, great job. That was a great tweet. If that was a troll, I don't think they were trolling though. What more do you want?
Clark Phillips had a pretty bad game. Okay,
he did.
Jeff Okudah. The Panthers made 2 spectacular catches between Mingo and DJ Strk. Like, fine.
Yeah, that Strk catch was different. Like that
was a tremendous catch. That was a fantastic catch. Yeah,
that's Jaguar DJ Strk. But
yeah,
besides that, it's just like all the offense had to do was make 4 or 5 plays and just not turn the ball over. Like the Panthers didn't turn the ball over, and Bryce Young's been a turnover machine. Like, and you know, credits to the Panthers where you actually saw them actually being creative offensively, whether it's using misdirection or different variations of play action. Like you saw them actually getting players out in motion, and the inside handoffs of Marset, which I think the Falcons actually defended relatively well. But at least the Panthers showed an intent where, okay, we're going to mix things up. We're going to try to get this defense off balance. What did the Falcons really do to get the Panthers off balance? They just kept running to the left side more times than not.
Yeah, like nothing. Like this run game is terrible.
That was one moment.
And sure.
Maybe there's another play action, but they barely use play action, and it's just look. I understand wanting not to have Ridder throw the ball too much in these conditions, and just given how unstable he is, but it's just an indictment.
4th and 3, like you obviously you have to throw the ball. It's 3rd and 11, like. And the thing is, Ridder got away with it too. Like he should have thrown a pick to Brian Burns in the first half.
That was another one where he just made the assumption.
He fumbled the snap twice. Like,
yes.
He could have had 4 turnovers in in this game. Like one of those fumbles just went right into Keith Smith's hands. Like that was just pure luck.
So there's so many things to touch on, and we got to get to some donations too, because I know you guys are throwing them in hot and heavy because everybody's got takes on this one, and I understand that. The run game sucks now. Like this Panthers team is below average against the run. Yeah, you got 3 backups in. You ran the ball okay. You ran the ball just fine against the Bucs last week with 4 backups in for a good chunk of the game. And you can't move the ball on the ground at all. And the reason why I don't like the run blocking isn't great, but guess what? Every time you run the ball, they just look at who's in the backfield, and then they know exactly what run play is coming because there is no creativity. There's no misdirection. There is nothing going on with this run game anymore. It is literally Tyler Algier. It's going to be inside zone or a power run between the tackles. If it's Bijan, it's going to be stretch. It's going to be outside zone. It's going to be a pitch, whatever. Cordarrelle Patterson, it's going to be, Cordarrelle Patterson's the one guy that's going to maybe be one or the other, but I'm going to be honest, Cordarrelle Patterson shouldn't be taking carries away from Bijan Robinson. And I know he's fumbled 3 times. He's a rookie. Bijan Robinson is a rookie. He's not, he needs to hold on to the damn football. There's no question about that. But, that's not, you're not calling a good offense anymore. You're not calling a good run game anymore. You're calling a terrible pass game. That stayed consistent. Why does Bijan Robinson have 2 more carries than Cordarrelle Patterson? And I love Patterson. This is not a Cordarrelle Patterson sucks tweet, but what are we doing? What are we doing here? Cordarrelle Patterson has 5 carries for -2 yards.
and the screens, once again, nothing out of the back.
That's all they got. That's all they got.
They can't even call screens. It was just it gets exhausting. It's just they're moving towards nowhere. Everything's stagnant. Everything's predictable. And you see, last week with Tampa Bay, they know how to target it. They recognize the play design, and they're going to pounce on it. That 4th and 3 was just so hopeless. You just saw once the ball was snapped, it's just I know you're trying to run to your strong side with Matthews and Bergeron being healthy, but just everything was – they knew it was going that direction. They overloaded.
Every run play, they know, and it's Bijan didn't have a good yards per carry. Tyler Algier didn't have a good yards per carry. He averaged 3 yards per carry and had a bunch of big runs in there. The rest of them sucked. They don't call anything creative offensively anymore. The Jonnu Smith leak where he breaks out and they bust the coverage. That was all they had on offense all day. If not for that play, they probably score 0 points.
It's glimpses. That's the problem. A team that has this much talent, and after your 3rd year as the head coach, and you're building your identity, you got to have more than glimpses. You showed it last year. In 2021, 2022, they had about, I would say, 7, potentially 8 games where you're wow, this offense is actually flourishing. We're recognizing, what the game plan is, and they're actually moving the ball pretty well. There's been maybe 4 games this year you could say that. The Texans
and even
game.
then, they left points on the field every time.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm
They've
just trying
never
to
played a clean. No, that's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But like you can't. No one is gonna have success if the defense knows what's coming. And every single game now, the defense can sniff out the run based on who's on the field because they don't use Bijan like a true RB1. They make him play in this committee, and whenever he comes on the field, the defense just knows it's like, okay, he's gonna run a wheel route out of the backfield, or he's gonna run an angle route, or he's gonna do something like that, or he's gonna get the ball and do a wide zone, or maybe at 1 out of every 10 runs he'll actually get a carry inside. But like, we're not too concerned about that. Like, you can tell the second Bijan gets the handoff, the defense is already running to go stop the outside zone. Like no one can succeed when you're this predictable. The entire advantage of the offense rests on being able to confuse the defense and keep them off balance. If they know what's going to happen, it's easy. It's easy. Like, you can't succeed that way. You can't win that way in the NFL unless you're just drastically better than your opponent or they're exhausted at the end of the game. Like, that's it. You can't win playing football like this. This is not a winning formula.
I don't think that takes into account the variables though. There's just
there are so many variables, Adnan. I can't keep track of them.
Jordan would be proud of you right now.
A lot of variables in there.
Let me say one more thing, and then just like I know we were talking in the Falcoholic chat today about what was happening, and I think I've figured it out, and I think to me, Arthur Smith feels like he has to use all of his pieces. Like, he must utilize all the pieces he brought in. And it doesn't matter if that means Drake London gets 2 targets, or Kyle Pitts gets 2 targets, or Bijan Robinson only gets a handful of carries. He has to utilize all of these pieces he brought in. And because of that, like, there's no featuring, there's no design. Like, it's like he refuses to design a game plan to feature his playmakers. Like, period. He just won't do it. It's like, well, everyone has to contribute, and we need to make sure Kyle Pitts is blocking. And if he's not blocking, well, we're just going to lose this rep, and we're gonna get on Kyle Pitts because he didn't block well enough. Instead of being like, well, maybe we should stop having Kyle Pitts block defensive ends, and if we're gonna ask the tight end to do that, we should put a different tight end in, and maybe we should just feature Kyle Pitts as a receiver, or maybe we should throw to Drake London more than 3 fucking times in a game. The man just had 172 yards against a better defense, and you throw him the ball 3 times.
The issue is there's no sustainability. Like, where's the consistency? Like, London has had games, but I think it's only been like 4 games he's had more than 7 targets, and it's just you see what he's capable of, and it's just. And I don't want to hear about game script. I don't want to hear about conditions. Like, you find ways to get the ball in your playmaker's hands.
Yeah, he can't. He doesn't. He refuses. They don't do it. Like, we've seen enough. It's been 3 seasons. They don't feature playmakers, period. They don't do it. They never game plan for that. I'm not convinced Drake London's big game had anything to do with game plan. I think they just saw him open and just threw the ball to him. Like, there is no...
And he rose up and caught it.
He did. Great for him. I mean, that was a terrible throw. It was a terrible throw. And Drake London made it happen. And yes, to everyone saying London is holding this back, or not London. London's not holding this back. Ridder is holding this back. London, you're absolved. Sorry, my bad. Anyone saying that Desmond Ridder is holding this thing back, you're absolutely correct. 2 things can be true. 2 things can be true.
It's not an excuse because Desmond Ridder is his hand-picked selection. Like, any issue you have with Desmond Ridder, that's just a continuation of Arthur Smith. That's just because Desmond Ridder is here because of Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith decided that he can do this with this 3rd-round rookie. He decided that we are going to be, the anomaly. He decided that we found this guy in the 3rd round that's just better than everyone else. Like, when it comes to 3rd-round picks, like 3rd round, when a quarterback falls to the 3rd round, there's normally a reason for that. Like, there's very rarely are you going to find a Russell Wilson. That's 1 in like 20. That's 1. Like, there's a much higher chance that the guy who falls to the 3rd round fell there because, he's just not a starter level player. Like, not everyone's going to be Dak. Not everyone's going to be Brady. Not everyone's going to be Wilson. That's 3 out of like 100. And, Desmond Ridder is not it. And Arthur Smith decided, no, he's my guy. He's going to sink or swim with Ridder, and he's sure as fuck not swimming right now. Like this ship is sinking, and I don't care. No matter what mistakes Desmond Ridder makes, that's just a reflection of Arthur Smith at this point. Those guys they're not interchangeable. They're one organism at this point, as far as I'm concerned, because this isn't Arthur Smith in year one and Desmond Ridder's just here, and he hasn't gotten a chance to handpick his quarterback. You've had 3 off seasons. You've had 3 off seasons to figure it out. That's more than enough time.
Yeah, exactly. There's like, what are we hanging our hat on? Like, what are we saying? Like, well, if we just see this, then like, Arthur Smith hasn't earned the right to say, like, I just need a quarterback to run my offense. You've had 3 years to get a quarterback. Like, it wasn't Arthur Smith's fault. They went after Deshaun Watson. We know that. But, like, you didn't do anything after that to fix quarterback. You went and got a retread in Marcus Mariota, who was bad, and you drafted Desmond Ridder. Like, and then you refused to give Ridder more snaps. We've been over this. Like, you played Mariota for the entire season, like to try to make the playoffs that year, which would have been very fraudulent. But like, Mariota was playing awful and he played over Ridder, so maybe that's an even bigger indictment of Ridder. And you saw Ridder for 4 games and he was pretty thoroughly mediocre at best, and you decided, like, we're going to go into this season with him as our guy. Like, there are consequences for that decision. Like, you did nothing to fix quarterback. You passed on quarterback in 2021 when you had a chance. Like, I like Kyle Pitts. I still think we're going to see some good things from Kyle Pitts as soon as Arthur Smith is gone. But, like, there's a reason everyone was like, I can't believe the Falcons passed on a franchise quarterback for Kyle Pitts. It's because nobody does that. Like, nobody does that, because if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have anything. And guess what? The Falcons don't have anything. They have 3 great offensive players. They have Bijan, who they barely use. They have Drake London, who they don't use enough, even though he's maybe the one that they do use. And then they have Kyle Pitts, who they've turned into a blocker and a bit player, and they occasionally throw him a pass. Like, no, this offense sucks. It's bad. Get it the fuck out of here. We're going to go into 2024 with this offense? Like, there's no hope if that's the case. Arthur Blank can't be that stupid. I'm sorry. Like, you can't be that stupid to think this offense is going to cut it in the NFL. It's not. It doesn't. It's over. Like, this is it. It's over. Like, if you go, like, what are they expecting to happen? Arthur Blank, if he keeps Arthur Smith at this point, I don't care if they win the next 3 games. I don't care. We've seen enough. This team is broken. The offense, top to bottom, is done. They suck. Everyone sucks on the offense. And guess what? The players aren't all bad. They're not. These offensive linemen aren't all bad. These receivers haven't just suddenly become terrible. Kyle Pitts is not a bad tight end. Bijan Robinson is a bell cow back. Like, why is everyone making dumb errors? Why is everyone running sloppy routes? Why is everyone having the same issues, missing blocks, whatever? You know why? Because the coaching staff sucks. The coaching staff is done. This is a disaster. You've had 3 years to implement this garbage. You've shoved it down our throats for 3 years. And fans were patient. In fact, like, fans were willing to give a
patient.
We were patient.
For 2 years. For 2 years, we're like, okay, like, we can't overdo it. Like, let's not jump the gun. Like, the roster's bad. You still need some time for the roster. The roster, 2 years of that. And he's made us look like clowns. Like, he's made us look so stupid for 2 years. Sorry for raising my voice.
No, I mean, it's time. This is the Raise Your Voice episode. Maybe I should change the title to that.
It is. We got some sound bites that we played for weeks after this.
Yeah.
If you want to look also Arthur Smith,
yeah.
Personnel evaluator offensively, he thought he could get another big receiver, Mac Hollins. Mac Hollins, healthy scratch. The biggest highlight Mac Hollins has this year is walking in the rain with no shoes. It's sad to say, but that's the truth. But I don't feel like Mac Hollins has forgot to play football. Same way with Scotty Miller. Like, both the Raiders and the Bucs found ways to get those 2 players utilized.
Yeah.
Van Jefferson, okay, been a disaster, but Sean McVay, this guy was on a Super Bowl winning team and was a valid.
He had 800 yards.
Yeah. So I don't feel like these guys have totally forgot to play football. Yes, they haven't contributed, particularly Van Jefferson, but it's just you've got to find ways to get them involved, especially when your passing game is just couldn't be more disjointed. But there's got to be ways to get them involved. You got to utilize their strengths.
Yeah,
and that's where they've fallen short. So people could talk about, Arthur Smith. The Falcons had such a great offseason free agency wise. Yeah, defensively. Offensively, you can't just say other than the trade for Jonnu Smith. And look, I thought Arthur Smith's guy. Arthur Smith, he knows how to use Jonnu Smith. Congrats. You got one player. But besides that,
that trade is looking better and better.
That Jonnu Smith trade, yeah.
But the rest, it leaves a lot to be desired with the receivers. Because, look, you need passing options in state, especially with how much the team loves running empty. They love going 5 receiver set. Yet 2 of those players are usually Cordell Patterson and Jonnu Smith, which doesn't offer much speed, kind of doesn't really stretch defenses. You got to scheme things up. And then sometimes Bijan will be there. Like the team just not valuing receivers. I know Arthur Smith got away with this in Tennessee. Can't get away with in Atlanta when you don't have a running game that consistently overpowers teams and a defense that isn't quite on that level. As good as the defense is, they're not destroying teams in the trenches, at least not from a pass rushing standpoint. So
he got away with it in Tennessee because he had an elite offensive line, a top 5 offensive line.
Yes.
And he had the best running back of a generation.
Yeah.
And he had a legit number 1 receiver too, and AJ Brown. Like don't sleep on that either. Like,
and that defense was really good too. They had some players.
And like the scheme was fresh then too. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off on, but
no, you're good.
Yeah, that the scheme was fresh. Like it worked. The scheme was working. Like what he was doing there, it looked really good. It looked fresh. It was smart. They were taking advantage of matchups. They were utilizing everything, and he did have a quarterback, right? Tannehill was crushing it those two seasons, but nothing has changed. Nothing since then has changed. The offense is getting worse and worse, and like I'm sure Arthur Smith is going to go to Arthur Blank and be like, "Well, I don't have a quarterback, so I can't do this." That was your decision. That was your decision. Like, what have you done to earn the right to draft a quarterback now? Because you passed on one in 2021 and you didn't think you needed one. And yes, they had Matt Ryan, and like this is not Matt Ryan slander, but they were clearly looking to get out of Matt Ryan as fast as possible. They immediately went in 2022 and tried to trade for Deshaun Watson. So don't tell me Matt Ryan was the long-term plan in Atlanta when the second they could go get another quarterback, they tried. Like, it's ridiculous. Like this was, and like, Fontenot obviously I'm sure deserves some of the blame, but like I don't think the acquisitions have been the problem. I think the acquisitions, like all Fontenot can do is go get the players that Arthur Smith says he wants and that Ryan Nielsen says he wants. The players that he's brought in I think have been good values. I think they've contributed. It's not Fontenot's fault that Arthur Smith can't use the guys that he's brought in. Like Arthur Smith can't figure out how to use Kyle Pitts, probably the most talented tight end to come out of the draft in years. He can't figure out how to use him. He can't figure out how to get him the ball. He can't figure out how to scheme him open. Drake London gets a handful of targets a game most weeks. Bijan Robinson's a bit player in this offense. Like he had the lowest percentage of snaps this week that he's had since like early in the season. They're using him less.
It's not the acquisitions, it's the application of acquisitions. That's what I think it comes down to. It's just you look at it every week.
And also there's just been so many mind-numbing decisions overall. Just not even talking about the scheme right now. Let's just get away from the scheme for a second.
Yeah.
Okay. You decide that Desmond Ridder is going to be your long-term quarterback of the future. Again, I think it's very stupid that you put that kind of faith in a third rounder because, again, there's a reason why every single team passed up on him twice, including the Falcons. Okay. So you decide that. Why are you starting Marcus Mariota for 15 weeks last season? Because Marcus Mariota, and don't tell me it's because he gave you the best chance to win, because we saw how bad Marcus Mariota was down the stretch, and we were calling for it. I called for it before the season even started that, maybe the best time to insert Ridder would be between that Carolina Panthers Thursday night game.
Absolutely should have been.
In the next week, because you have the extra 3 days. The bye is very late.
That was what we were clamoring for. Yeah.
Perfect timing.
We were calling that before the season even started.
Yeah.
And Marcus Mariota has a disaster class on national television where he embarrasses, himself and the franchise to a certain extent. And they decide to not pull that trigger. They decide Marcus Mariota is our guy just to lose the next, 3 or 4 weeks. And then they finally insert Desmond Ridder. Why are you if this is your guy, why are you waiting that long? Because if he inserts Desmond Ridder before that, maybe that would have been enough for him to see that Desmond Ridder isn't the guy, and then we wouldn't have wasted a whole offseason this year not getting a quarterback. Maybe we wouldn't have wasted a whole season with Desmond Ridder as your quarterback. And then beyond that, that's not even the first case of that. Remember Jalen Mayfield? And I know it's easy to throw darts at Jalen Mayfield. He was the whipping boy. He wasn't really that good. I still, to this day, attest that Jalen Mayfield got a really raw deal with the Atlanta Falcons because of Arthur Smith. He was a third-round draft pick whom you implemented at right tackle throughout all of training camp and throughout all of preseason. You put him at right tackle. You gave him only right tackle reps. And then right before week 1 starts, oh, hey, by the way, you're going to be the left guard now. And you're going to have to play against Fletcher Cox and then Vita Vea. And then the Giants defensive line, and then the Jets defensive line. It's just this gauntlet that happened. And I get it. Jalen Mayfield isn't him. I'm not saying, Jalen Mayfield would have been good enough to stay or to even be on the roster right now. But, man, you really did not do right by that rookie. And it would have been difficult for anyone. It would have been difficult for any single offensive lineman for you to put him in one position for months and months for all of the reps, and then you decide last second to just switch it up and to put him on the exact opposite end because, not only was he not playing tackle, you put him at guard, but he wasn't even playing on the right side. You can ask any offensive lineman just how difficult it is to make that sort of transition. We talked with Keenan Forney. He said just to go from right tackle to left tackle, it takes, 3-4 months of just consistent practice, of consistent reps. And that's you staying on the outside. You kicked him on the inside too. It's just I just don't get it. I've still never understood why he did that. And I get it. You had an injury to Caleb McGarry, but if you knew that you were or McGarry had COVID at that point, I think. But if you knew that you were going to put this guy at left guard, why put him at right tackle for a month or for 2 months throughout the entire preparation period? It's just, I don't get it. I don't understand what's going through his head. Does he just think that anything he does is just going to turn into gold? Does he think he can just get away with anything? Things like starting Desmond Ridder or choosing to go with Desmond Ridder this season, for example. I don't know. It just screams ego. It just screams, I can do no wrong. And I'm just smarter than everyone else when, it's clear that he's not. It's clear that these defensive coordinators week in and week out have completely outsmarted him. Not just one. Every single week he's losing that battle, that chess match against the other defensive play caller. Ryan Nielsen's doing his best. Ryan Nielsen's winning most of those chess matches. But I don't know. I don't understand it. Where does this ego come from? You had a couple of nice years in Tennessee. Where does this stem from? Is it the FedEx stuff? Because shit, you didn't even it wasn't you who created FedEx. But it's I don't know. I don't understand it. I don't get why he has such an ego, and it's
because in NFL he's an NFL coach, right?
But it's even more so.
It's more, yeah. It is.
It just feels more.
It does, yeah. I mean, it's you have to have an ego to be an NFL head coach. There's a certain amount of ego that you just have to have, because otherwise you can't do it. But yes, it is.
A different level of an ego.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things that you can go back on thinking why didn't we give Ridder more preseason snaps? He clearly wasn't ready. He's still not ready. They thought he needed one drive in the preseason and then he was good. They were wrong. This offensive coaching staff has been wrong a lot, and they're not utilizing the guys they have. This is a bad offense, plain and simple. I don't care about the empty yards. I don't care that they're average in terms of yardage. You've invested so much in this offense and it's not working. It sucks. It's a bad offense. So
if you're not averaging more than 20 points, you're a bad offense. What are they at?
Plain and simple.
18, 17?
Yeah. It's not likely to get better either. So, it's completely unacceptable. Fans deserve better. You can't sell fans on Arthur Smith in 2024. You can't do it. And if you do, you're asking for it, man. Like you're dooming this team, because if they don't come out the gates hot, the stadium's gonna be fucking empty. It's gonna be empty. It's gonna be empty week one. Yeah, it's gonna be empty next week. There's Arthur Smith losing this game to the Panthers ended his career in Atlanta. I'm sorry. Like I think this is it. We're gonna look back and be like, this is when it was over. Like it's Jover, whatever you get the meme up, like you can't lose to the 1-12 Carolina Panthers with a playoff berth on the line after blowing a game to the Bucks the previous week that would have also set you up for the playoffs. Like you're done. You're out of here, buddy. You're done. Like, and if you're not done, then we have serious questions about Arthur Blank, because you can't accept this. I don't care that yes, he got a pass for the previous 2 seasons where those don't we're not going to bury him for having to deal with all the issues of that old roster. But now, after what we've seen this year, there's no hope. There's no hope for this offense. This is not like a Kyle Shanahan 2015 situation or a Steve Sarkisian 2017 situation where you're like, well, maybe if we have a little more time in the scheme, everything gets settled, it can be better. And guess what? Both of those years, they were right to give those offensive coordinators a second chance. It paid off really well in 2016. Obviously, in 2018, it paid off well too. They just happened to scapegoat the shit out of Sarkisian in 2018 incorrectly. But and Joe Schmo says, did Blank really sell the fans on Quinn after 2019? It was different for Quinn because he took this team to a Super Bowl. It just was. This was one of only 2 coaches in history that have taken this team to a Super Bowl. He was going to get a longer leash than anyone else. And I think you could make the argument that you probably have to give him a longer leash than anyone else because of that.
But that was still, I would still argue that was still a mistake.
It was clearly, but yes.
But also the other thing, Quinn didn't even last a full 3 losing seasons.
No, exactly.
That's what I keep going back to. Mike Smith only got 2 straight losing seasons, and Mike Smith is the most successful coach in franchise history statistically. There were 5 straight winning seasons under Mike Smith. This team had never put together back-to-back winning seasons. And what has Arthur Smith done to earn a leash longer than Mike Smith or Dan Quinn? What's he done? What? Please tell me what he's done. Nothing.
He hasn't done a damn thing in Atlanta. 7-10 twice, doing it with that roster. Sure, that's good on you. But no one's giving you flowers for going 7-10. We're not gonna bury you for it with that roster, but no one's giving you flowers.
And we weren't.
No, we weren't. We weren't. Yeah,
giving him pass after pass, maybe even too much. Genuinely, there were people that were criticizing us for giving him too much of a pass, and those people can run their victory laps right now, but I feel like we've been more than fair with Arthur Smith at this point. Even we've given him, even more leeway than maybe we even should have.
Yeah,
but it's over.
This was the year. It had to be this year.
They had to show life. That's all we needed.
Everything that's happened.
Yes, you can't go backwards this year. Yes, you can say we're giving you a pass for these 2 years, but you can't fall into the toilet in the 3rd year. That's the one thing you can't do. If you just go 9-8 with this easy ass schedule and scrape into the playoffs and it's ugly, but you get there and there's a little bit of progress, you could at least sell the fans well, we at least made the playoffs this year. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're done. The Bucks just shit on the Packers. You really think that team's falling apart now? The Saints won. The Falcons are a game back on both teams. They just lost to the Panthers. You think they're winning another game? You think this team's winning another game? You got to go play the Colts, who, like Alan said, are a pretty good team. They're decent at worst. Then you got to play the Bears, who are really not bad. They are better than the Falcons, in my opinion. And then you got to go to New Orleans, where that team is not the same team. That is a different team at home. They're not winning these games, I don't think. Maybe they win one, But they're gonna so they get back to 7-10 for the third straight year. Congratulations, Arthur Smith. You did it.
The new Jeff Fisher.
Yeah,
Jeff
I guess
Fisher
so.
did 7-9.
7-9.
The 7-10
He's
guy.
the worst Jeff Fisher. Yeah.
Even Jeff Fisher made a Super Bowl. That's what I'm saying. These coaches, coaches in the past have survived. I think someone in the chat mentioned Sean Payton survived 3 straight 7-9 seasons in New Orleans. Sean Payton won a Super Bowl. And the Saints were still in discussion about trading him at that point.
Right. He built a resume of success. They've made divisional round multiple times. They made that conference championship his first year there. You got to have a resume.
Exactly.
Arthur Smith's resume is from Tennessee.
Exactly. And even in Tennessee, that was still a Mike Vrabel coach team. He wasn't even the head coach in Tennessee. Yes, his offense was good. But still, you had Derrick Henry. You had a Hall of Fame running back in his prime who is, the best running back since Adrian Peterson in his prime. This is one of those variables. These are the variables we should be talking about because he doesn't have any history of success. How does he have more job security than every other head coach in the NFL if you keep him? He should be gone tomorrow. Brandon Staley was gone the next day. And at least Brandon Staley wasn't a good coach in with the Chargers. I have, a friend who's a Chargers fan who was preying on his downfall week in and week out. But Brandon Staley, at the very least, has a playoff season under his resume.
Yep, even him. Yeah.
Yeah, even he made the playoffs.
Yep, exactly. So it's rough out here.
I'm not defending Brandon Staley at all. I'm just saying, Arthur Smith has less success than Brandon Staley did in L.A. Sorry,
I don't think that's a good comparison. Just given where the Chargers were with Herbert, I don't know. I think it's just two totally different scenarios. But I get what you mean. At least Brandon Staley did achieve something to an extent.
Yeah, but Brandon Staley has nothing to do with that offense. Brandon Staley's the defensive guy, and their defense has been terrible.
I mean, he decided on Joe Lombardi, who really derailed that offense. Then what's happened this year, I put fully on him. But you look at other things, it's just I don't know. It's not the best comparison, but I get what you mean. At least Brandon Staley claimed, they had a good run last year where I think they shut down the Dolphins' offense. Staley actually had some big wins. Arthur Smith's biggest win was being up but banged up Niners team last year.
Yeah,
I guess beating the Texans this year.
Beat the 49ers once during the regular season. That's the banner. Hang it up.
Yeah, what's his signature win? He beat the Saints once, or twice now, because I'm thinking of the 2021 season.
That's it. Yeah.
There's nothing a lot there. And I know the roster was a disaster the past 2 years, but what we're trying to get here is this is the year where you want to see real progress. This roster is good enough to win 10 games. No one could deny that.
Yeah.
And especially given them favorable matchups. And look where they're at now. What's gonna happen?
They're gonna lose out, and they're gonna fire Arthur Smith. Is what's gonna happen.
Right, exactly.
He's gonna get fired, guys. I know. I cannot believe that they won't do it at this point. I refuse to believe it. It's that there will be so much pressure to fire Smith when they go 6-11 or 7-10 and look bad the whole time. I can't believe they won't do it. That doesn't mean they will, but my opinion is that he's gone.
All I'm saying is this loss today and that loss against Tampa, as much as it stings in the moment, that could be a blessing in disguise at this point.
Yeah, every loss now is good.
What a loss.
Yeah.
You look at 4 games there: Minnesota, Arizona, and the last 2. It's just
I genuinely will not judge you if you are going into these last 3 games hoping for losses. Genuinely, I will not. Don't give me any shit about, it's bad for the team culture. What fucking team culture? This team has terrible culture. This team, this franchise has a disastrous culture. The culture will start to change with hopefully with the next head coach. That's who will have to bring in the culture. Because, right now it is in this team's best interest to lose out, to put that pressure on Blank to actually pull the trigger on firing Arthur Smith, and to finish hopefully with a top 5 or 6 draft pick, because then that puts you in range for one of these quarterbacks. And then hopefully you can bring in, my top candidate is, and I've said it in past shows, is Slowick from Houston. I would love to pair him with with a Jaden Daniels or with a Drake May or with one of these. Caleb Williams isn't in range. That he's going to the Bears probably, or if the Bears want him.
Yeah.
Because the Panthers, who are, now 2-12, still have the worst record in the NFL, and they just beat the Falcons.
Yep.
So yeah, I think it is in this team's best interest to hurt a little in the short term for the next 3 weeks to hopefully have more long-term prosperity, because I can easily envision a scenario where this team comes away with an ugly win or a couple of ugly wins, maybe one in New Orleans and maybe in Chicago, and then Arthur Blank is like, oh no, like, we're going to carry over momentum into next year, even though that doesn't work. That's not a thing. That doesn't happen. Like, we've been burned by that before. They decided to carry momentum over into 2020, and they started off 0-5. And I'm just going to say, if Arthur Smith is back here next season, like, don't be surprised if the Benz is a lot less rocking, and don't be surprised if fans decide that they don't want to pay their hard-earned money to watch this product which is going nowhere, and this offense which is stuck in neutral and which has remained in neutral for 3 seasons.
And it was a bad decision, but I think Dan Quinn did make a strong case to be brought back. Because remember, they beat the Niners and the Saints, to me, 2 of the 3 best NFC teams on the road last year. And not convincing wins, because San Fran was last second, but the team was battling hard. Like, you could make a case for it. Yeah, look, it was a total disaster in 2020, but when that move happened, I was like, all right, I kind of get it.
The players clearly loved him too. That was the thing.
Yeah.
Like,
what I hated was that Dirk Cutter was brought back, but that's just that's just a terrible oversight on their part. But it's just now, I just don't think Arthur Smith has really done anything to make a case. Like, the only thing he's really built here is a running game. Like, that's his biggest.
And that sucks now too. It's bad now. They ran for like 30 yards today. You had a really good running
game in 2021, but it's been very inconsistent this year.
Yeah, they ran for like 50 yards. Actually less, because they had 4 negative yards. So yeah, they ran for like 49 yards against like the 18th run defense today. Congratulations, Arthur Smith. Great job. Great job.
So what's his next biggest thing? Like, okay, he got the most out of a first-round pick in Cale McGarry. Like, okay. Besides that, I don't know who he's really helped grow as a player. Like, we know Kyle Pitts has regressed for the past couple of years. So we should probably open up the listener questions, because I know we've been going for about an hour.
We got to get to those now. Thank you guys for those. But yeah, like, I'm sorry, but like the Panthers gave Chuba Hubbard 22 carries and the Falcons gave Bijan Robinson 7. That is fucking inexcusable. Like,
and credit to the Panthers, they made a big free agent sign with Miles Sanders. They realized, okay, you're not producing, you cannot be our running back. Like, they're not hard-headed to where, oh, we got to keep you on the field because of your status. It's like, no, we'll make adjustments and we'll use the best players possible. Yeah.
The Bucks last week gave Rachaad White 25 carries. The Falcons gave Bijan, 10? Like, how do you like, I'm sorry, like, this whole offense is so fucking stupid on so many levels. Like, I can't believe anyone could look at this and be like, this is a good offense. We should give Arthur Smith another top 10 pick to get this offense correct. Like, no, you botched it over and over again. This offense is an abomination. This is a joke. Like,
here's another good one for, I don't know, you talk about 3 losing seasons. When has a head coach had 4 top 10 picks?
Yeah, never. He doesn't deserve it. You've squandered it over and over again. It's been squandered.
Right there, yeah.
You guys know what's their pick right now?
Right now it would be 10, but the games aren't done yet, so we'll see. They're 10, but they're like a game back of 5.
Yeah, like the highest they could probably get is 5 if they lose out and teams win. But
also, because they had the easiest strength of schedule, another thing
that helps. That helps.
Strength of schedule this season, that's going to win them the tiebreaker pretty much over any other team. Like, they have had their SOS is like by far the easiest, 400, 430.
Yeah. We all know they're going to pick 8th again. We all know that's inevitable.
Any team they're tied with, the Falcons will get the tiebreaker in the first round, because that's what they go by.
Yeah. So, like, the fact, like, on this note, before we get to your donations, because I know we got a bunch. Thank you guys so much for that. The Falcons realistically could get to 5, but they would need some help. But they do play Chicago. And so if the Falcons lose out, they'll get to 9 without anything else going their way. So that is like the worst case scenario. If they lose that, they'll be 9. But Tennessee, the Chargers, the Giants, the Jets, Chicago, they all have very winnable games. Even Washington has several winnable games. So Washington's at 4.
Let's count the Chargers out of this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, like, I think realistically you're probably getting between 8 to 6 if a couple of teams win and you lose out, because you're going to get at least to 9, and then if you have 1 or 2 more teams win, you're probably between 6 and 8. And that puts you in the position to get Jaden Daniels. You're probably going to have to trade up to secure him, but you could probably move a day 2 pick to make that trade. Like, you don't have to get up to 2 or something. But Arizona seems like they're going to stick with Kyler.
Trade.
So you
it's
could probably
very manageable trade.
Yeah. So if you're at like 6, you could probably trade, a third to the Cardinals or something like that. Or maybe you might have to make it a second. I mean, we'll see. But you don't have to give up future firsts to make that trade. So if you do get in that range, it'll help a lot. But there's also the chance you can just sit at 6.
Cardinals have shown they will trade down.
Yeah. So, in Washington, maybe they stick with Sam Howell. I don't know. You could potentially make that a trade target too. I don't know about that. But
maybe Bill Belichick's their coach.
Right.
If Bill Belichick goes to the Commanders, all options are on the table.
I think they'll end up with the enemy. Like, I think they have to, like, they'd be foolish not to.
Yeah. So so you'll have to get in front of Washington if you want Jaden Daniels, more than likely, because they're probably going to go for him if they're ahead of Atlanta.
I don't know. Not a big Sam Howell, like,
I mean, I think they could. But, like, again, like, are they going to make the Falcons mistake and be like, we're in the top 5, we're going to pass on a quarterback? Like, I mean, I wouldn't. But
maybe they take a tight end. Who knows?
Maybe. There you go. Brock Bowers, right? There's a generational tight end in this class. So.
I mean, if Arthur Smith was here, I'm sure he'd lobby for Brock Bowers, but hopefully he won't be here.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, 6 to 8, like, you're probably not moving up to 1. Because that's Caleb Williams.
They're not going to do that. Yeah,
there's a chance that the Bears could even take Williams and just trade Justin Fields, because Fields, his extension may be coming up pretty soon as well, and that's going to be much more expensive than rolling with Caleb for the next 4 years. New England's going to take a quarterback. Yeah, Arizona is the only thing is you're going to be in a bidding war with some other teams for 3, right. And. Yes. You may have to make a pretty rich trade that you're not really as comfortable with right away, because the template is already set from last year, where the Panthers moved a day 2 pick, a first next year, and DJ Moore to go from 7 to 1, and I think that was a worse quarterback.
It was from 9 to 1, right?
Well, yeah, it was 9 to 1.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we'll see. We'll cross that bridge.
Because if they get to like 6 and they have to go to 3, that's a lot. The number 1 pick is a completely different story always. So if they're going to 3,
it all depends on the market. It all depends on what other teams are offering. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that point when we get to that point.
Yeah, it also depends on who Arizona wants. Like if Arizona wants like a top tackle or Marvin Harrison, they can't go very far. Like, they can't really move very far, because, if the Bears are still picking at 5, or if, Washington or whoever's there, like, they can't really go very far, or they're going to lose out on, but like, because both those tackles and Marvin Harrison are going as like pretty quickly in this class. So they can't, so in that scenario, they can't really afford to like trade down very far at all, because they're going to lose out on those guys. So again, it behooves the Falcons to be in position as close to the top 5 as possible to get their guy. So, all right, we got some. We're gonna dive through these, and we'll talk about some of them. We'll read all of them, of course. We don't want to keep you guys here for like 2 hours, but we got Ian McCluskey with the $10. Thank you, Ian. He says, how quickly can we name Ben Johnson the next head coach of the Falcons? Also, when that trade up for Jaden Daniels happens, I will cry that we got a real quarterback talent once again. Yeah, I mean, the Falcons certainly...
You watched it last night, man.
Yeah. I mean, Jaden Daniels is great.
Special.
Yeah. He's QB3. So they're going to have to get up for him, but I would do it.
Kevin, if you watched Sam Laporta highlights last night, you could picture maybe what Ben Johnson could do with Kyle Pitts.
I would go all out for Ben Johnson. I would pull out all the stops. I love his offense. It's not perfect, but I do really like what he's done, and I would take a chance there for sure. But yeah, I mean, I agree with what Dr. Gon just says, which is that Ben Johnson probably, I mean, I would go for Justin Herbert before going into a rookie quarterback situation. But again, the Chargers are not a desirable spot because that ownership is really bad. I mean, they don't invest in that team the way they should. We all know the reputation there. So the one chance is that he doesn't want to go to that shit show of an organization. But
process in shambles, tough conference. Look, he'll have plenty of options of where to assess.
Do you want to go to play the Chiefs for the playoffs every year, or do you want to go to the NFC South? The choice is yours.
I mean, Panthers fans are convincing themselves that he's going there.
Oh, he's not even going to take the interview. Yeah.
You didn't even take the interview last year.
Yeah, why would you want to go there? Have you seen Carolina? Sorry, Panthers fans. So,
yeah, I mean, at least we're not tied to our quarterback.
Right. We got Rise Up RXNs with the $5. What's up, man? He says, year 3 of a 3-year plan, and this garbage is what we get. Wasted our 2021 draft, mediocre 2022 draft, 7 and 10 times 2, and on the way to 3-peating. Fire Smith now. They're not going to fire Smith now. He's going to last through the end of the year, but Black Monday is calling. That's for sure. Mark Bigby with the $5 as well. Thanks, Mark. I get more frustrated at Arthur Smith's offense than I ever did at Dirk Cutter's. That's how you know it's time. Look, we give Dirk Cutter a lot of shit, but at least that man could call a passing game. Like, it wasn't great. It wasn't super creative, but at least they generated passing yards. He couldn't run the ball to save his life, but they had NFL passing concepts in that offense, which I think is a stretch for this offense, honestly. So, say what you want about Dirk Cutter, but at least that passing game worked to some extent. So, and maybe Matt Ryan carried the shit out of him also, but, you know. We got Manny H with the $2 with the simple LMAO. I appreciate that. That's a good one. We got Urban TV with the 10. Thank you, man. He says, the daily failure of this offense is a mixture of bad scheming, bad execution, and an inconsistent young quarterback. The record is not supposed to look like this. Arthur Smith has to pack up and go. Nico with the 5 says, well, Merry effing Christmas from the Falcons, everyone, and me. I can accept and get behind a talent deficient team that is nonetheless making good decisions. I don't see why we have to endure this level of stupid. However, I'm done. Yeah, don't blame me on that one. I think we're all kind of off the ledge at this point. We got Ed with the £5 donation. Says, shout out from London. Yeah. What's up, Ed? What's up?
International flavor.
Yeah, Falcons fan from London here. Love you guys. Can we really assume Smith will go soon, and what are the realistic expectations for the team next year? Yeah, I mean, we can't assume anything. I do think that at this point, we've seen this team falter to such an extent that, like, keeping him at every, like, game like this makes it harder and harder for... I think it's obvious that Blank wants to keep him, that he sees something in him that he likes. You know, he seems like a nice guy. Like, honestly, when I've interacted with him in person, he seems nice. I mean, I don't think he's, like, lost a team, but, like, every game like this makes it harder for that to happen. In terms of the expectations for next year, I mean, I think if Smith is back, the expectations are nothing. You know, probably a midseason firing, honestly, and I hate saying that, but I don't think we're going to see significant change with this team, and that's why he can't come back, because if he was capable of significant change, he would have done it at this point. And this offense has not changed at all the entire season. It's been bad the whole time. They've made no changes. It's bad. The whole thing is bad. The scheme is bad. The decision-making is bad. The game planning is bad. Arthur Smith isn't capable of making those changes. I don't know if it's ego, like Adnan was saying, like Alan has been saying, or if it's like he just doesn't know what to do and he's run out of ideas. Either way, he needs to go. But yeah, so if a new coach is here, then expectations are, you know, what quarterback do we get? Who is the coach? You know, I think if we bring in all those new people, we should be expecting this team to contend for the South, no question. But yeah, if they don't change this coaching staff, I think it'll be very, very dark this offseason, no question. But All right, we got George here. What's up, George? Stands at the $2. He says, I'm up to 92% certain that Arthur Smith is just Dirk Cutter and a mustache, up from 83% last week. Although I think Dirk would have more passing yards. He could probably use Pitts better. Are we sure Dirk Cutter was the problem? I mean, at this point, I think people would, like I said, I think at this point people would be taking Dirk Cutter, right? Oh, man. We got Ray Moon with the $2. He says, I thought Arthur Smith had a good game plan in the ugly rain. Ray, man, I love you, but I don't know what about that game plan was good. I didn't really find anything that I liked. I liked the tight end leak to Jonnu Smith that the Panthers forgot to cover. I like that. There
might be a play Kyle Pitts once or twice.
Sure. Yeah, we got 3 catches for Kyle Pitts. What do fucking do? Yeah. But it's like this team just can't get out of their own way, man. I hated it. I hated everything about it. I hated the emphasis on Tyler Algier from the very beginning. No offense to Tyler Algier, but Tyler Algier's averaging like 3 yards a carry. And you drafted Bijan Robinson 8th overall. What the fuck are you doing, man? I know Bijan's put the ball in he's fumbled 3 times on hundreds of carries. It's really not that. Yeah, you can't do it, but I mean,
and I don't know how you could approve of just what the third and long calls were.
Yeah, third and long runs over and over and over. Yeah, it's that's such a low. They're setting themselves up to lose. They're playing for a punt. I mean, third and long runs. You can mix one in every once in a while. You can try a draw, especially if you're run blocking really well. But they weren't run blocking well. They were awful in this game, and the Panthers were loading up to stop it, and they sussed out the play every time. They knew exactly what was coming. You could tell. So no, it was not a good game plan. Can't agree there. We got Guy Fieri, aka Solaire, with the $2. He says, the deep darkness is here. Bring on the draft takes. Smith needs to be fired now. No end of the season. The players have given up. I'd say this loss is just as bad as the Chargers loss on Thursday. I think that's aggressive. Let's see what Ryan Nielsen can do. Give him a shot.
Levels.
It's not as bad as that. That was actually
losses, and then there's just franchise-altering losses. Oh, this was kind of franchise, but that's just pure embarrassment.
That was actually the defense quitting, I think. Yeah, that was legitimately what it looks like when players quit in a primetime game. But yeah.
It did not help that was the only game.
9-7, 63-21.
One of only a handful of 60-point games. Yeah. Oof.
Man, give Justin Herbert the MVP just for how they looked without him.
Yeah, apparently he was holding that back from being 40-point deficits every week. But
do we want to give any praise to individuals on the defense quickly? I feel like we haven't mentioned Calais Campbell. That poor guy. Can they release him to go to a playoff team?
That man is given his all every single day. Yeah, that poor man.
Hopefully he'll be on a good contending playoff contention team next year with a better offense.
Yeah.
Good for him. The other name, Zach Harrison, he got his first sack today.
Yeah, good for him. He had a crucial play for sure.
And then he got it was in the red zone. I think it was on third down. Mm-hmm. And then he got another tackle for a loss later on in the game. So Zach Harrison, he had his highest impact game of the season, the third rounder, whom we weren't expecting much out of this season because he's very raw and maybe he needs a year, but it's good to see him coming on a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So love to see that. And again, it's the defense, it's even worse for Arthur Smith because the defense is giving them the ball back. They're getting them possessions. They're getting them good field position, and they still shit the bed over and over and over again. They got the ball to 42 and punted. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Nate Landman had a great fourth down stop.
Yes.
Kane Ellis had another good game. Laquel London off IR playing a man possessed. You saw what this defense is capable of.
The defense is just kicking ass. They held them to 10 points and they couldn't do shit. They couldn't do a damn thing with it. I'm sorry, but there's no last year it was well, these are the excuses. This year it's wow, everything else has gone right and you suck. You're worse. I'm sorry. If that doesn't convince you that this man doesn't know what to do, that he's run out of answers, I don't know what will. You can't be convinced. Like,
The defense gave up 9 points.
9
Like,
points, and somebody was
they didn't even score a
adding me saying,
touchdown.
like,
They busted
they-
out the end zone.
I just can't believe that was a real tweet. Like, oh, are we going to talk about how the defense blew another lead? What, they blew a 7-point, they blew like a 7-6 lead? Like, is that, you're talking about that? Like, does that count as a blowing a lead? Because I don't think that's what counts as a lead. That was like,
cool last week. Like,
how do you lose a game where you scored the only touchdown?
yep, no, that's a good one. Oof. All right, let's keep going on these donations so we can get out of here in the next 2 hours. We got Corey Carter with the $2. He says, silver lining is that I don't think Arthur makes it to season 4 after this. If we win, that probably isn't the case. I'm going to take some time off from watching the Falcons now. It's my choice to be a part of this, and I don't choose it anymore. Yes, guys, please tune into the postgame show every time. But you don't have to watch the Falcons if it's really like messing you up, if it's really stressing you out. Don't do it. Don't do that to yourself. Just relax. You can watch the highlights if you want. You can watch the postgame show to get the recap. You don't even have to endure the game. But yeah, don't put your mental through it for this team. They're just not worth it. They're not.
Also, come join us on Wednesdays too.
Yeah, yes, also on Wednesday. Doesn't involve you watching the Falcons at all, so that should be safe. But we got Corey Carter with the $2. Says 2 seasons ended today with his fantasy. Yep, Ridder and Bijan did me in. Was looking pretty good until that inevitable Ridder turnover. Shame on me. Yeah, I can't. Like, Ridder, every once in a while, will have that, like, good fantasy game because of the rushing, but, like, I just can't bring myself to do it, man. I can't depend on this Falcons team. Like, I just can't. I absolutely cannot. So, except for Drake, and Drake screwed us today, too. So, I mean, not Drake. I mean, it was
scored negative points in this game as well.
Yep. So, hey, game over, man. Game over. I mean, they gave him, 7 carries? So, there it is. We got Corey Carter with the $2. He says at 2:35 in the first quarter, 3 defensive linemen penetrated into the backfield on the same play and buried Cordarrelle Patterson for a loss. How is that even possible? How did 3 guys miss their blocks simultaneously? Well, coaching. Everyone's sloppy. You got some backups in there, but everyone's sloppy. This is how it looks every week. This offense is missing blocks. Like, people are not running the right routes.
Derek Brown would bully the Falcons when Lindstrom was in there. So It's like, what do you think he was going to do today? I mean, Brian Burns can still play. So it's just, this game wasn't going to be a walker. To me, like, going into it, they just had a win. Like, this was not going to be pretty, especially not having Anyamata and Dupree and McGarry and Lindstrom. Like, they're missing key players here. All you got to do is win. I don't care how ugly it was. Just be a professional football team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Real quick break, guys, here, where I'll just say thank you for watching. Please do like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. That really helps us out. If you listen to the podcast audio after the fact, please leave us that 5-star review on your platform of choice. If you're interested in supporting the show, you love the coverage, you love the rants, you can consider signing up for our channel membership here on YouTube. You get early access to the published, like the recorded videos and stuff like that, like the Trench Talk and the game previews, as well as some draft stuff, obviously, when the season ends. If you're interested in the podcast stuff, you can check out the Patreon. It's patreon.com/Falcoholic Live for early access to those podcast episodes. Both also have some exclusive shows like the Q&A sessions, like the fantasy leagues, that sort of thing. So check that out, guys. I really appreciate everyone for hanging on for this difficult season. Thank you guys so much. And real quick, let me get to the prize picks before I forget, because I feel like I'm going to forget here in a second. Obviously, it didn't work out. Cortland Sutton came through for us. All right, Cortland Sutton, even in a dominating loss, Cortland Sutton came through for us. He had 71 yards. We went more on his 55.5. Great job, Cortland Sutton. All reliable. And the Falcons couldn't manage to get Bijan not more than 19.5 receiving yards, and they couldn't get him a touchdown of any kind. So, shame on me. This is going to be the last time I put any of these on Falcons players. Like, I'm done with this. Like, this is so... I mean, you can't get Bijan 20 receiving yards. You can't get Bijan a touchdown. You can't get more than 7 points against the 31st ranked scoring defense. No one in this offense is safe. I'm going to be avoiding from now on. I suggest you do too, for your own sake, for your own prize picks or whatever you happen to be betting on, whether that's Bet Online, whatever you got. It's just not worth it. I was trying to stick with the Falcons, for the sake of the show, but I'm trying to win here, not lose money. So no more of this team. But guys, thanks to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's episode. For those that aren't aware, Prize Picks is a skill-based daily fantasy game. You pick 2 to 6 players, decide if they will go more or less than their projection. And the more players you pick, the more you can win, all the way up to 25 times your money on any entry. And at PrizePicks, guys, you aren't competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections. PrizePicks also has a generous promotion schedule, so make sure to check back on Taco Tuesday and Flex Friday for some free plays, for some reduced bets, or reduced projections there. Make it a little bit easier. And guys, it's not just the NFL. They also offer projections on any sport that you watch. College football with that going on, NBA, MLB when that starts back up, NHL, whatever you got, guys, they have that and many more. The best part is PrizePicks entries can be made in 60 seconds or less, and they offer fast withdrawals. It's that easy. All first-time users that deposit and use our promo code DBB for Dirty Birds and Brews, you guys will receive an instant deposit match up to $100. That means if you throw in 100, PrizePicks will match and give you 100. If you deposit 50, PrizePicks will match and give you 50. Just make sure to use our promo code DBB so they know who sent you. And guys, PrizePicks is available in Georgia, notably, because it is daily fantasy. So check that out. It's in 31 states, Washington, D.C., and most of Canada as well. Thanks again to PrizePicks for sponsoring today's show. All right, let's get through the rest of these donations because we're already at 1 hour and 21 minutes. We got George Costanza again, saying, you saw in the fourth quarter why the Panthers gave up so much to go up and get Bryce Young. What makes the great quarterback great is the fourth quarter. He went down the field and won them the game. 95 yards, the better quarterback won. It's funny because Desmond Ridder actually only plays well in the fourth quarter. He didn't do that today, obviously, but typically he's actually been doing that. But yes, I mean, I don't think, Bryce Young certainly has gone through it this year, but I'm not willing to say that he can't be a decent quarterback in the NFL. After this season. I mean, you look around and say, has anyone had it worse than him? Maybe Ridder. No, I'm just kidding. Bryce Young's had it really bad, so I'm willing to see what happens with him, with a new staff, with some actual weapons around him and a better offensive line. We'll see how that goes. But we got New Drop with the $2. What's up? He says, Ryan Nielsen should be the head coach. I mean, if they do fire Smith before the season's over, I definitely think Ryan Nielsen should get a shot. Might be Jerry Gray, too. That would be the other guy I would think of because he does have some experience there. We got Corey Carter with the $2. He says, Ridder has answered all the questions we had in the negative. Doesn't trust his eyes, can't throw a guy open, and only throws when that guy is wide open. If he isn't, then he forces the ball, and there you get the interceptions. He also can't make the quick decisions. I mean, no argument there. His decision-making is the worst part of his game right now. He just doesn't see the field. And even when he does have guys open, sometimes the accuracy is just so atrocious sometimes, man. It's way worse than it ever was in college. I think he's just overwhelmed and the scheme is not helping and the whole thing is ugly from top to bottom. We got T. Lou with the $5. He says, easiest schedule. They lose to terrible teams. Look who they've lost to. The 1-12 Panthers, the 1-8 Cardinals, Josh Dobbs off the bus with the Vikings. What gives? It's a bad team, T-Lou. I don't know what else to tell you. It's a bad team. We got George Costanza with the 2. He says, Calvin Ridley was the canary in the coal mine. He noped the fuck out on this regime early. He saw what many of us didn't want to, ship Arthur Smith to Indy ahead of time just to send him back to the FedEx HQ. I guess it is in Indy. Yeah, that was sneaky. Snuck that in there. What's everyone drinking? I got this new Citizen cider. It's called Ruby Sipper. It's hibiscus and rhubarb with some funky stuff in it, so it's a little bit sour. It's pretty good. It's a drier cider. I like those typically. Hard cider, of course. I can't drink regular cider. I can't drink anything non-alcoholic for these post-game shows, that's for sure. You got anything? Yeah, you got anything exciting that you got? Odd non is just water today.
Chocolate milk.
Oh, there you go. It's exciting.
That's organic.
Horizon Organic, yeah. Big spender.
Horizon Organic, low fat too. So
there you go. Not bad. We got Jason Gaines with the 2. What's up, Jason? He says, on Ritter's int, he had Drake London wide open for an easy completion. I would say touchdown, honestly. He could have just walked right in. Instead, Ridder forces it and throws it into triple coverage. Another game loss thanks to Ridder. He's calling out Ray Moon for his take, saying stay off the weed. If you need weed to get through this season, I don't blame you. If it's legal in your state, please do, avail yourself if that's your thing. But, yeah, I mean, I would say that I think Ridder was throwing to London. He just missed incredibly badly. because I can't believe he was throwing to Kyle Pitts based on where that ball was thrown. I think he was throwing to London and missed it that badly.
His eyes looked like he was directed towards Pitts. Just the close-up view, he was like,
I don't know what's worse with that, Alan. To be honest, I
don't think, like, he really tried to look like Pat Mahomes on that. Like, he could have easily just set his feet, saw the field, because I know, look, he got pressured on the play, but it wasn't like he was in a rush. He just was in rhythm, or in motion, I should say. And I don't know, like, just on the close-up view, it looked like his eyes were squared directly towards Pitts. I don't think he saw London. If you look at, like, the view, I wouldn't advise anyone to watch film on this. I don't think I'll be doing any film review this week. It's just I don't think there's anything you can really take from this game other than just how bad the offense was. Like, it's just one of those games that just shows you this. We need a whole new offensive regime. That's where
we need to start over. Like,
there's nothing really else to do with this game.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, man, I had a lot of faith for this. I liked the idea of going with the heavier sets, given that the NFL was moving to more cover 2, moving to more nickel, that sort of thing. It's just ugly. The results speak for themselves. It's not working. I don't know if it's that, like, I don't know that it's necessarily that the personnel decisions are poor. I think it's just this scheme is really bad. It's really ugly. The passing concepts are awful. The run game has taken a big step back. There's nothing to hang your hat on. And I think it's over. You know, I don't see anything of value here that we would lose by moving on from Smith. And it pains me to say that, because I like the man personally. I mean, it's tough. It's rough. It's a tough business, though. You got to have results in this business. We got Corey Carter with the 2. He says there's honestly no reason to keep Smith past today. Put him and us out of our misery. Plus, we need to find out if we have a potential head coach on the roster already. Everyone needs a fresh start. They won't fire him midseason. Maybe if they had like a Chargers style game, they would. But other than that, I don't think they will. They're going to play it at Black Monday more than likely. Corey says, Adnan, you are obligated to answer this. Who wins the title first, and are any of us alive to see it, Hawks or Falcons?
God, I hope so. I don't know. Like, you know, maybe you were twisting my arm. I don't know. I think just it's easier by nature to win a title in the NFL because, you know, you just get hot and go on like a playoff run, win 3 or 4 games. So just by the nature of how the sport is lined up, I'll say the Falcons. But part of me is convinced that I'll never see a Falcons title after that 28-3 like blown lead. So like I think deep down, I know that I'll probably never see a Falcons Super Bowl.
No, I think the football gods owe us for 28-3. I think we're going to get one here in like the next 10 years or so. But I didn't say we're not going to suffer in the interim, but I think the football gods owe us for sure. So now we also have to, you know, the football gods help those who help themselves, right? So we got to make sure to, like, you know, help out a little bit by getting a real quarterback and a real offensive coach in here. But please, football gods, do us a solid. Give us some positive luck one of these years. Let's see. We got Duncan Barshard with the 10. Thanks, Duncan. He says, happy holidays, boys. This totally sucks. It's rough to have to cover this garbage, but thank you for always providing that solid content weekly and allowing me a place to unload my frustrations. Nielsen for head coach. You're welcome, Duncan. Thanks for sticking with us, enduring this team as we do every year. Unfortunately, the last 3 Decembers, it's been like this. It's like we get to this point, we're like, well, I guess it's over. I guess, you know, even last year, it was like they had a good chance to make the playoffs because of how terrible everything was. This year, it's worse somehow.
It's been the last 5 Decembers.
Really, yeah. Really, yes. Yeah. I think most of the last 5, like I would say last year, there was like actually a legitimate chance they could still make the playoffs, even going into like the last 2 games. But like, yeah, outside of that, feels like no chance again. But at least they held, like, I only had to do 1 mock draft before mid-December, so at least we had that. That's the banner we can hang up this year. But we got Brandon with the $2. What's up, Brandon? He says, Falcons are unlikely to fire Smith unless the team completely falls apart down the stretch. Do we think Arthur Smith took this as a personal challenge? I mean, could fool me, you know. We're going to try to figure out what late season collapse means, and they're really going to test. They're really going to test it. It seems like. So, man, it's ugly. We got Cortez Battle with the $2. What's up? He says Kyle Shanahan said my plan is to get the ball to 11. Yeah, and they did, to their credit. He knew how to feature playmakers. Look at how that offense is distributed. It's like Ayuk, Debo, and Kittle, with Christian McCaffrey getting almost all the carries, and maybe somebody else catches, maybe Jawan Jennings catches a handful here and there, depending on the game, But, like, the majority of the targets are going to those those four guys, and they don't really pretend to throw the ball to anyone else. So, also, it's unfair to compare anything to Kyle Shanahan's offense, but I would hope you would use that as, like, the goal instead of whatever the hell we're seeing in Atlanta. So, we got Cortez Battle again saying, we dealt with his attitude and everything. Yeah, I mean, I could do without the attitude because that just hurts him even more when you act like you know more than everyone else. And you definitely know more than me, but also I don't make the big bucks. I make the little bucks to come on here and criticize, and that's my job. So that's what I'm going to do. Criticize where it's warranted. So we got Corey Carter again with the $2. He says, everything you need to know about Smith was shown to us first. We didn't play starters in year one when there was a new scheme being implemented in the preseason. Year two, he played starters more. Then he went back to sitting the starters again in year three. He did it his way, and he's going to be leaving soon. Probably right about that. Got Manny H with the 20. Thanks, Manny. Appreciate that, buddy. Says, never have I seen a saggier, more deflated and defeated franchise. The Dogs buckled down and won 2 national championships after their collapse. The Braves won World Series after that 3-1 thing versus the Dodgers. The Falcons have continued to humiliate us even more and more since the Super Bowl collapse. Well,
It's not wrong.
can't argue with those. Can't argue with those numbers.
Not wrong. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, good points there. The Falcons have regressed and continue to regress after failing. So it's unfortunate.
It's not even a roller coaster. Like it was just like you were at the top in the third quarter of that Super Bowl, and then ever since that moment, it's just been like this for years.
Yeah, it's rough, man. George Costanza with a 2. What's up, George? He says, let's keep it 100. Falcons are going to do Falcon things. That they're now pretty much out of the postseason, so they went all out to play with pride. They're going to go all out to play with pride and fuck it all up. I can't root for the Falcons to lose. I'm stuck. Why do I do this to myself? Well, I just go into each game saying I want the best thing for the Falcons to happen this week, whatever that is. And I don't necessarily, make any ideas about what that is, but I just want the best thing to happen to this team. And at this point, it might be losing. I don't know. It could be. Both for the draft pick and for the change that needs to happen at the top. Gemini with a good question here with the $5 says, has Nate Landman done enough to take Troy Anderson's spot for next season? He's been good. Maybe.
It'll be a battle.
Yeah,
It's a conversation.
Landman's played himself into that conversation, and that's just a testament to just how good Nate Landman has been, because what we were expecting Troy Anderson to be like a mainstay, like a heavy part of this, a main part of this defense. But Nate Landman is what, 25?
Yeah.
Like he's also like, Nate Landman has played himself into what will hopefully be a very long NFL career.
Yeah. I love Landman. He and Anderson are kind of completely different players. I do think there's a big role for Troy Anderson on this defense, but he may be more of a sub-package player until he, I think the Falcons really felt like they needed Troy Anderson to be a starter this year because of what they had. And he was flashing and struggling a little bit. He wasn't always taking the right angles in the run game. He was missing some tackles, but you saw the flashes of that athleticism that neither Caden Ellis or Nate Landman can match. Troy Anderson, I think, obviously has the highest upside in coverage. So I do wonder if maybe they go to more 3 linebacker stuff. Maybe they let Caden Ellis play a little bit more of his New Orleans role where he did rush the passer a little bit more. I think Anderson is definitely your highest upside coverage backer. I think he's going to play on third downs and stuff like that. But they're going to find a way to get him on the field. And obviously you need linebackers because those guys they get hurt. It's a tough physical position. So I think it's a good thing, a good problem to have, where you got to get both those guys snaps and you have someone that you can trust to come on the field if one of them gets hurt or if Ellis gets hurt. But I don't know who's going to end up starting or playing more snaps. I think both will. I mean, we know that Landman kind of has his limitations in coverage. He doesn't have that plus athleticism, but he's so good against the run that it's tough to take him off the field. So it may be a matchup thing, maybe depending on what they do with the defense thing. Maybe they go to more 3 linebacker stuff, more traditional 4-3 looks. I don't know. We'll see. But I think Layman has certainly earned a role on this defense. No question about that. We got Sour Pickle with the $10. What's up? He says, Arthur Smith has to go. He should be fired tonight. Nothing has changed, and I don't care about the rationale for keeping him because the season isn't over. They need to start figuring out the direction of the team going forward. I mean, I don't disagree with you. I mean, you guys have a point, everyone that says he should be fired now, because I don't really think he's going to show us anything over the last 3 weeks that's going to change anything, but I think they'll give him... I think Arthur Blank is desperate to keep him. He's going to hope that he can pull off a 3-game winning streak and give him any justification to keep him. I just don't think it's going to happen, but that's probably what they're going to try for. So, we'll see. And finally, last one, George Costanza with the $2. Says, so I guess it's official that I've lost my $500 bet on the Falcons making the Super Bowl. Maybe next year? Here's a real question. Would you trade a first-rounder for Sean McVay? He has made Puka Nacua a household name. What could he do with this team / Ridder? I mean, it would definitely be better. I don't think Sean McVay wants to leave Los Angeles. I think he's happy to stay there now. I think he's kind of rejuvenated his love for the game. So I don't think he'll be available. But, like, yes, would I trade a first-round pick for a top-tier coach? Absolutely. I mean, look at all the struggles this team has had finding a good coach. So, yes, I think a top coach is absolutely worth a first-round pick. But
a future first.
Yeah,
so
a future first.
Could be top 5, and that's not.
Yeah, it would be a future first. But I think that's... Yeah. But, yeah, the coaching matters so much. So, yes, I would certainly consider it.
Also, he's from here. Like, Sean McVay was a former Georgia Mr. Football in the same year that Calvin Johnson was in high school.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't forget that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I wouldn't hate it. Yeah, guys. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us tonight. We really appreciate everyone. Appreciate all the new subs. Thanks to everyone for donating. Appreciate all the love. I guess I didn't put the graphic up, but yes, the Senior Bowl fundraiser is going on. Appreciate everyone for contributing to that so far. I did just get my Senior Bowl credentials approved, so that's cool. I'll be down in Mobile again this year, covering all the practices. And this is going to be a good one. We could see Jaden Daniels there, for example. Maybe I'll get the scoop on if he's met with the Falcons like I did with Ridder that one year. But appreciate everyone for hanging out, for enduring this terrible season with us. Before we sign off, I want to thank, of course, Alan Strk, at Alan Strk, for joining us tonight. Alan, anything else you'd like to add before we sign off?
2024, folks. That's all we could really say at this point.
We're on to next season. There we go. Once again, it's gross. But we got also with this, of course, Adnan, you get your ad say which way. Adnan, anything else you'd like to add before we sign off?
Bye, Arthur Smith. Straw that broke the camel's back. It's over.
It's over.
Done.
Yep. Yep. Oh, man. Tough one. Tough loss. Tough season. I hope there will be a light at the end of the tunnel where the Falcons have a good shot at a franchise quarterback and a fresh start with a new coaching staff. But that's not a guarantee of anything either, guys, as you've seen. So we'll just hope for the best. We'll continue to try to stay positive in terms of the long-term outlook. This is a good draft class. It's much better than last year. They do have a chance, obviously, to make waves there. We know Terry Fontenot is going to crush free agency. And for the record, I don't think any of us think Terry Fontenot is in any danger. I imagine he'll get the chance to hire his head coach now, which probably should have gotten to begin with, but whatever.
Hiring a coach before a GM is so stupid.
It's
like, of course, this
weird.
franchise would do something that dumb.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not great. It's just some teams are doing that. I don't think it's really ever worked out. I think the traditional way is the best way. So, guys, thank you so much for hanging out on this Falcons versus Panthers. Wow. Week 15 post-game show. Like I said, subscribe. We appreciate that. Please do leave us that 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. Check out the channel memberships and the Patreon. We'll be back, of course, early in the week with a new Trench Talk to talk about this disaster and what the future holds. And then we'll be back on... I guess I don't know if we'll be back on Wednesday. It could be a little bit later in the week, possibly Thursday, because it depends on when my flight gets in. I'm flying back home for Christmas. So if I get home in time, we'll do the show Wednesday. If not, we'll probably move it to Thursday, but we'll check. We'll check on that. I'll give you guys an update. Just stick to the Twitters. I'll keep you guys posted on that. But yeah, rough one, rough season, rough year. We'll hope for the best going forward. Just want the best for this team. It's what we always have wanted, and we'll continue to hope that. So, guys, thanks so much for joining us on tonight's post-game show. We'll see you next time on the Falcoholic Live. Have a great night.